everybody, this is Robin with Creative2xmom, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you a flip through of one of the preschool books that we used, what your preschooler needs to know. So welcome back to my channel. My name is Robin and this is Creative2xmom. This channel is all about homeschooling, parenthood, and thriving in the day-to-day. And lately I have been doing a series about how to do preschool inexpensively in your homeschool, and I've been sharing some of the activities, the books, the resources that we used as we taught our kids from home. I've been talking about how don't waste your money on preschool curriculum. It's really much simpler and easier than you think. And so one of the resources that we used when my kids were in preschool was this book called What Your Preschooler Needs to Know. I've talked a little bit about it, but just as a refresher, this is a compilation of poems, stories, activities, that sort of thing, and I wanted to flip through it and give you a look inside. Okay, so bear with me as I'm doing this one-handed. This is what your preschooler needs to know. Read alouds to get ready for kindergarten. Like I said, we were able to just get this one from our public library, but you can usually find a copy pretty inexpensive. There are several of these for different grades. I'm just flipping through some of the introductory stuff, and then we come into the table of contents. There's poetry. I know that my preschoolers loved poetry, and the great thing about poetry is that it gives you a chance to hear rhythm and rhyme and language and vocabulary, and it's just fun. Little kids just love the fun aspect of poetry. There's finger play, there's moving poetry, there's beginning sound poetry, and then we've got a whole section about songs, section about stories, history, science, art. Art was one of those things that had it not been in this book, I probably would have not thought to go through artwork with my preschoolers, and then what parents of preschoolers may want to know. This is a little bit more geared toward public school, if you're going to look for preschool or getting ready for kindergarten, but also a section about reading aloud with your kids, and we have talked about this a few times on this channel before. I will link those videos down below, the importance of reading aloud with your kids and how to get started doing that. I love that this poetry is illustrated. So I would use this book a lot like a read aloud in different aspects. So we would sit down together. My kids loved the illustrations in this book. It really drew them in, and it made poetry not so intimidating. I know that poetry can be really intimidating because we talk about analyzing rhythm and rhyme and rhyme schemes and all of that, but poetry is meant to just be enjoyed, to just be read aloud and enjoyed, and I felt like this made my kids really comfortable. So we've got the whole section about poetry, which it's just fun. The illustrations, I can't use that word enough. It's fun. And then you move into stories. A lot of these are stories like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, classic stuff that you would tell your children or read, but having it all put together reminds you, oh yeah, we haven't talked about the gingerbread man before, so you can just grab and go. The Little Red Hen, this was my son's favorite story. He was in preschool, and I really feel like it built his work ethic. There's the Three Little Pigs. Oh, I can't remember what this one's called. Does anybody remember while I'm flipping back? Oh, How Turtles Got Their Shells. This was a fun one, and I had never heard this story before purchasing this book. So that's the great thing about this as well, is that it's a compilation, and it will sometimes bring out poems or stories that you don't know yourself and actually are really great to do at this age. Now the history section, I think between the history and the science, those were probably my favorites, because again, it reminded me to bring up topics with my kids that we hadn't previously addressed. Going into the first Americans, George Washington, and this is all basic but yet so important. History, the first presidents, Betsy Ross and the American flag, Abraham Lincoln, introducing them to some memorable historical figures, Martin Luther King, and then we're going into science, and this is where it really addresses things that kids are interested in: bugs, animals, living things, plants, and the pictures and the illustrations in this book are just amazing, and they bring the whole thing to life, talking about different habitats. the science section, I think, between the history and the science, I don't know which one I loved more. And then in the artwork, we just have a piece of artwork and just a small little blurb on the bottom that talks about what it was about, the story behind it, the artist's name, and some further discussion questions to go along with it as well. And it addresses some different types of art. So that's a flip through what your preschooler needs to know. So that was one of our favorite resources when the kids were in preschool. As I mentioned before, I had one that did full-on preschool in the public school system, and then I had two that were either at home or partially at home. But even the one that was in preschool full-time, we still used this book, and I felt like it really kind of gave him an advantage going into his elementary years. This is one that we've been able to find at the library pretty easily, or you can a lot of times find this one used and inexpensive. I think it's worth it. Some of the stuff is, like I said, with some of the stories, you can find them other places, but to have it all in one place, to be able to grab when you just have 5 minutes with your preschooler, I found it to be a good resource. Leave me a comment down below and let me know, are you enjoying this series? And what are some of your favorite money-saving tips for preschool? I always love hearing your ideas. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.